Hey guys, Felix here. Today I'm going to be covering how to gem, enchant, and reforge as a Windwalker Monk for patch 5.4 for PvP. But before we get started guys, I'm basically going to tell you what this video series is going to be about. This video series is going to be compiled of a lot of guides that are going to be covering on the current patch, so in patch 5.5, I'm going to be making these guides all over again to keep you guys updated. So I'm going to be covering all the specs, all the talents, everything you need to know down to the wire about Windwalker monks and Mistweaver monks for PvP and PvE, as well as I'll be covering Brewmaster. I'm not going to be putting these guides in one single video because I feel that if it was in one single video, not only will you guys feel crammed on trying to find certain information in one video that's really long, I'm not able to go as in depth into certain points that I would like to go into because I do not want to make the video too long. So to compensate, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be splitting these guides up into several different guides, so not only will you guys be able to find them easier, but it'll be just a little bit more easier, and I'll be able to basically go as in depth as I can with great examples for you guys so you can better understand what's going on. So without further ado guys, let's get started with our first guide. Alright guys, the first thing I want to talk about is the gemming. Now, I'm going to first bring up the gems that I use for PvP currently, and then we're going to basically talk about why I use them, give you guys some examples, and then we're going to move on to some alternative gems that you can choose to better fit your playstyle, depending on what you like. The main gems that I'm using currently is Delicate Parameter Ruby to match my red sockets for 160 agility, and next we have Deadly Vermilion Onyx to match my yellow sockets for 80 agility and 160 critical strike. Lastly, we're going to want to gem our blue sockets for Shifting Imperi Amethyst for 80 agility and 120 stamina. Now, the alternative way you can gem is basically going straight agility and ignoring the socket bonuses. Now, if you were to choose this method of gemming, I would at least keep your boots and shoulders with Deadly Vermilion Onyx because 80 agility and 160 critical strike is really important because crit is your main stat priority as a Windwalker monk for Reforging. So at least keep those and just ignore the socket bonuses for the rest of your gear. Alright guys, now that we've got the gemming down, let's go a little bit more in depth on the subject and basically talk about why we gemmed these certain gems. Alright guys, basically the 2 points that I want to talk about when choosing certain gems, because I'm going to be talking about the other stat priorities later in the video when you go into the Reforging, is when to choose your agility or your stamina gems. Now, agility is great. You can use it for heals, you can use it for just about anything with the Windwalker class. When you're finding yourself choosing either the socket bonuses with the stamina gems or the agility gems, it really comes down to how much you can survive as a Windwalker. Now, certain classes like DKs, warriors, and hunters are really bursty right now, so I tend on taking the stamina gems because I have a lot of trouble in arenas, sometimes surviving against them if I get into tight situations, so I tend to take the stamina gems just for that reason. Again, this really comes down to your playstyle, so I urge you to try both those gems out and basically best see what fits you as a person and a player, because everyone plays differently. So maybe I'm having trouble surviving against one class, maybe you're not. Maybe you're having trouble surviving against a different class than I am. So again, I urge you to try them both out. Now, agility does help with your healing, it will increase your heals, so just keep that in mind. But now that we basically covered the why on the gems, let's move on to the Reforging and basically go in depth on why we reforge into these certain areas and why these stat priorities are so important. Alright guys, now let's move on to the Reforging. Now I'm going to be talking about the stat priorities, and then we're going to discuss in depth about why these stats take priorities over one another. So the stat priorities are going to be crit, mastery, then haste as a Windwalker monk. And this is going to be for PvE and PvP, no matter what. Also remember for PvP as a Windwalker monk to at least have 3% hit and then 3% expertise. Now that we've got the stat priorities down, let's break down each one of these stats and then basically talk about why they're important and why they take priority over one another. Let's first start off with crit. Crit is a really important stat as a Windwalker monk. The reason for this is because not only can you get amazing threat and put out a lot of pressure as a Windwalker monk with a lot of crit, but you can also get a chance to get a really good heal crit that can really save you in a tight situation. So you have to look at it both ways, from a DPS standpoint and a healing standpoint, because I can't tell you guys how many times crit has saved me getting a really clutch heal when I really needed it, a really huge crit with either Expel Harm or a Healing Sphere, and that has really saved my life. As well as when you're locking someone down in a Fist of Fury that they can't get out of, especially if all those Fist of Furies crit for like 50 to 70k, it puts out a ton of pressure, as well as a Rising Sun Kick to the face can really hurt and really put out a lot of pressure when you crit with that as well. So crit is a very important stat as a Windwalker Monk. Let's next talk about Mastery. Mastery has seen its several changes ever since monks were released in Mists of Pandaria. It's gone from increasing damage done to the amount that it stacks to just a lot of different stuff. So Mastery is constantly being changed. However, I feel that Blizzard has basically found their point in Mastery. So I don't think that Mastery is going to be changing anytime soon. Mastery is important because going into rotation, especially with the new changes to you having to use 4 chi rather than 3 to get a Tiger's Eye Burst stack, it makes it really hard to stack Burst up, especially in PvP, because you're going to have to be dealing with kiters, you're going to have to be dealing with people that are going to root you, so it makes getting those Tiger's Eye Burst stacks extremely frustrating. So having that Mastery up is really helpful, but remember that you want to prioritize crit over Mastery. Alright, let's finally talk about our haste. Now, haste is actually a really important stat, and people don't realize it. Even though it's the bottom of the priority list, it's still important to have an energy threshold of at least 12 energy per second on the energy gain. Now, the reason for this is a threshold that I found in the beginning of MOP when I started playing a monk on a beta. Now, I've experimented with all the reforging and all the regemming and everything, and I found that if you go below 12 energy per second, you're going to have yourself a really tough time going through a rotation as a Windwalker Monk in PvP or PvE and actually keep up your DPS and have enough energy to jab by the time you run out of chi. Now, in PvP it's also different because you're going to be using energy to root people, you're going to be using energy to heal yourself, so again, make sure you don't go under that threshold. Haste scales terribly with any DPS that requires energy to do DPS with, but with the new gear and the extra haste with the more stats, I don't feel like you're going to have much trouble keeping that threshold, but keep that in mind whenever you reforge out of haste, is to never go underneath that margin. Again guys, if you find that you can go under that threshold of 12 energy per second and you've been able to do that effectively as a Windwalker Monk, and that's a playstyle that works for you, by all means guys, stay under that threshold and stay what you're at. Again, if you found something that works for you, stick with it, and if you find something useful in this video, basically take those ideas and then adapt it to your own playstyle. And I hope it helps, but let's briefly go over the enchants, because we've covered the gemming and reforging, and then let's basically wrap up this video with the enchants. Let's move right into the enchanting. Now, the first thing I want to mention is your Dancing Steel enchants. Now, as a Windwalker Monk, you really want to focus on using 2 weapons rather than 1. The reason for this is because you can get Dancing Steel to proc twice. If you don't have enough money for Dancing Steel, you can always get Windsong. Now, the other thing that I want to mention is, as a Windwalker Monk, you do not need a Pyrion weapon chain on your weapon. The reason for this is because we really don't have anything that we can use that would compensate for the double enchant proc. Not like a rogue where if you, with your Shiv, you can peel out with that thing. Again, we don't have anything that limits us because we use our fists, so we do not need a Pyrion weapon chain. And when you get both those Dancing Steels to proc, it puts out a lot of pressure and you hit really hard. Moving on, you're going to want to enchant your shoulders with the Tiger Claw inscription, so you get agility and crit out of that. Next we're going to enchant our cloak for 180 critical strike. Next we're going to enchant our chest for 80 stats to everything, so that's glorious stats. And next we're going to enchant our bracers for 180 agility, and if you do not have enough money for the agility enchanter bracers, go with critical strike. Next we're going to want to enchant our gloves with mastery. And next we're going to want to get our leg enchant, our leather leg enchant for 285 agility and 165 critical strike. And finally, we're going to finish off with our boots for 140 agility and then movement speed increase. Again guys, this is going to be a part of a video series, just an entire series of guides for you guys. I'm going to be doing this every single patch to keep you guys updated. Again, check out Gamers League. We have a lot of cool people with us. We got Reinhardt, who founded it. We got Hansel. We got all those big YouTubers out there who have amazing guides out, and also some very unfamiliar YouTubers that still make amazing guides and want to help you out. So again, make sure you check out our website. There's links down below. Check us out, give us support, really appreciate it. But other than that, if you have any questions for me, any comments for me, make sure you just drop a comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Hope this guide helps guys, and hope to see you in the next one. Take care.